Hi, it's Natasha.
And Khalil.
And we are the co-hosts of
WokeNFree.
Thank you for tuning in to our 229th episode of WokeNFree. If you've been tuning in every week for WokeNFree Wednesday, you know that WokeNFree is all about being real and honest with each other and you. We talk about everything and anything important to us, you, the world, and nothing is off the table. This week, we are discussing, a show that was interesting and very, very fun and also confusing. I won't hide the ball anymore. We're going to do a WokeNFree review on the Netflix show called Selling Tampa. But before we dive deep into that subject, a couple of things to cover. Have you downloaded the episode on WokeNFree.com through the Podbean app? If not, please do so, because that's how you're able to join the conversation and add in your comments and tell us what you thought about the Netflix show. Now, if you can't, for whatever the reason, download new apps on whatever device you listen to podcasts on, then please just make sure you go to WokeNFree.com and click on the Listen tab and then pick your platform of choice where you're going to follow and subscribe to WokeNFree. So we love and appreciate all the love we get on iTunes, on TuneIn, on Stitcher, on Google Play. Obviously, if you can, subscribe to our YouTube channel, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, and it's everywhere. It's a WokeNFree world, guys. So make sure you participate. And also on WokeNFree.com, if you haven't already done it and you can do so, please click to subscribe to follow the show. And then on social, you'll easily find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, and LinkedIn at WokeNFree. And then if lastly you have 90 seconds, which you do, go on the Listen tab and go on WokeNFree.com and then give us a review, wherever you can review the show at. So, different platforms, review away. So I'm going to kick it to you now, Khalil.
All right. And before we start the conversation, we like to share a little bit about ourselves. This week, we're asking Natasha's favorite question.
Oh, Lord.
Would you rather be able to speak all languages or speak to all animals?
Complete foolishness.
I know. I shouldn't have asked your favorite, though. I could have saved it, but I had to do it at least for one episode.
Lord.
So finally, one of your all-time things we used to discuss.
People versus animals. So, being all that I do in this world, I would say at this juncture, But there could be a monetization value that would be not a... So is this, just real quick, is this just an ability for me, or is this an ability for anyone? Anyone can employ this?
No, this is for you, specific to you.
Oh,
only you can use this ability.
Meaning I would only be available in the world to be able to do it, or anyone else could do it at the same time?
Oh, you mean only you have the ability?
Yeah,
and no one else has the ability?
That's going to determine how I answer the question.
Oh, that's funny. You're asking if it's like an ability other people pick up. Is it like
only I can do it, or anyone else could also do it as well?
It's only you.
Oh,
okay. It's a special ability. Yeah.
So then I would say speak to all animals, because then I could monetize that as the only person able to do that. But if if other people weren't available to do that, then I would speak all languages.
Okay, that's an interesting way to go about it. But technically, it's funny. You could actually speak all languages, and you can monetize that too, because people look for that all the time.
That's true, but there's a little bit more competition to that. But the animal thing,
so you just knowing there's no competition, that you're gonna be, then you're gonna be excited about that.
I'm going to be the golden, the golden diamond.
Wow, okay. I mean, I wouldn't even have thought about if anybody else could do it, but either way, I'd like to speak to all animals, because then you can get all the lions to protect you.
Smart.
And you can get anybody to protect you too. You can get rhinoceros, you can get ostriches, you can get honey badgers, anything to protect you. And guess what's cool too? It would be good for you, because this is animals. I think that would include insects, so you could tell the insect to go away. And hopefully but the only thing is hopefully they listen to you, because just because you can speak to them, that doesn't mean necessarily you can control them.
They could totally tell me something not WokeNFree.
Yeah, they can say something to you and that it's not going to actually happen as you would want. And they could also tell you what they think about shows that you watch.
Stop scaring me, please.
All right, what if they told you about shows that you watch? What was their take on it? Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
What if they were watching Tampa? What would they be
Tampa?
selling about it? Yeah.
Smart. Okay.
What if they were watching a similar show?
All right,
Can you at least explain to the insects or the animals what is Selling Tampa on Netflix all about?
Or the human beings listening to the show. Yeah.
True.
Okay,
Exactly.
awesome. So this show, I would describe it as, it's supposed to be some type of docu-series or drama following the activities and success of an all-female, black-owned realty agency called Allure Realty, as they sell real estate. However, I would describe this as more so a saddened, disheartening reiteration of, again, that stereotypical black women attacking each other, undermining each other, betraying each other, in cute and not so cute outfits, in and outside.
Not so cute? Oh no.
Style is a personal taste, and I didn't love every outfit I saw, but there definitely were certain fashion things that I enjoyed. They did this inside and outside of homes in Tampa, Florida, with very little insight as to the degree of more of the real estate lingo that I guess we're used to when it comes to watching a real estate show. I felt like it was more human focused as opposed to the property focus, which is what I was really excited to see about, because I hadn't seen properties in Tampa that looked like that on the show.
Look like what?
They were luxury properties. This is Allure Realty is getting into the luxury market, so that's why they were showing these really beautiful multi-million-dollar homes. However, sometimes the agents weren't educated on the properties themselves when they were speaking, and that on it. And
that's not fair to say. There was only one agent in specific. Most of the agents were.
Maybe. But again, it wasn't like it wasn't a plethora of conversations around property, right? It was just a lot of human conversations around she X doing this, X not doing this, what she doing, who she it was drama, less property, more drama.
Yeah, when I think of the show, I think it's just like classic reality TV drama to me. It's not really about the real estate. So it's the classic fighting between people, the lying and backstabbing and all that kind of stuff going on. And you're just really watching the drama between the women. You're not learning more about real estate in Tampa. So it's frustrating. Even though it's called Selling Tampa, I think there wasn't even that many houses that we saw, to be honest, throughout the series.
Well, they were, to be fair, they're trying to get into the luxury market.
Oh, I didn't know they were trying to get into it.
Yeah,
I thought they were already in it.
Well, they are into, I think, so it wasn't clear. So I've listened to the owner of the realty, and she was describing that, because this has been a criticism of the show already by, I believe, Charlemagne or DJ Envy, one of the two, that show, they were talking about how like no real estate was sold and the owner of Allure Realty, kind of wanted to kind of push back, and she was saying they're breaking into luxury.
Oh, so nothing was actually sold. Actually.
No, I think there was a couple of deals, but not as many as I think most people would have expected on a reality show like this or a show like this. And it was, I don't know. It was interesting and frustrating all at once.
Yeah, it was a big contrast to some other real estate reality shows.
Yeah. So. What would you say, if you had to break it down, what were the pros and the cons then?
The biggest pro is just seeing women of color selling the high value property, because we don't see that nor hear about that. So
that was rare.
I think just that the idea of it is actually sound. So that's a pro. And then another idea of it that sounds great is that the women of color are working together, actually, because oftentimes they're just fighting in most of the content we see. So the idea of the show is supposed to be them selling houses and working together to sell real estate. So I like that idea, the idea of it. And then another pro I think of is that it's a big one is this real estate agency. It's actually owned by a black woman.
Yes.
So that's always good to see that portrayal. We don't see that often. There's a lot of cons, so I'm just going to list a few of them. And that's the big one for me is like the petty fighting between the women when they're fighting over things that are inconsequential. Doesn't really make sense to me. There's like a lot of lying that people are doing instead of just actually getting your work done. You're making excuses and saying, oh, this happened when it didn't. And remember, you're on video, so we have the footage. We can go back and see what really happened. So I don't like that. And they just try to normalize that. Oh yeah, it's normal for me to just make up excuses and stuff. I don't like that. So those were like some of the cons that came to mind.
Okay. So for me, I would say my pros would be seeing, to your point, Black women represented on not just a TV show, but a Netflix show. Again, there aren't that many Netflix shows that center around the Black woman narrative specifically. So I was very excited about that. To your point, a real estate brokerage that's actually owned by and operated by a Black woman on Netflix is yay. So exciting. And then I mentioned it earlier, which is that I spent a brief time living in Florida. I was actually in Brandon, Florida, which is near Tampa. And so I was not familiar with the beautiful $1 million properties that happened to be in that area. So that's why I was most excited when I heard the show was coming out last year, that to watch and see these kind of different real estate opportunities. Would I live in Florida? No. But I definitely think for people who are and who can afford those homes would probably be very tantalized by some of the properties they saw. But unfortunately, there's a good and a bad to everything. So my cons come down to the following. The owner, Sherelle Rosado of Allure Realty, personally, this is just my opinion, I felt how her portrayal of her as a leader and her business acumen on the show seemed to be very poor and very totalitarian in nature. She didn't seem to be operating from a place of we and let's operate together, but this was her realty agency. Yeah. And if you wanted to follow suit, you get in line or you
leave.
Yeah,
start your own agency
and do your own thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if that's how she meant to come off or if that's just how her portrayal was depicted in the show. But that I found to be a negative because, again, it re-emphasizes the idea that's, stereotypes around Black women and making it as if certain women of certain communities are more difficult to work with, which I really, really hope that as we continue to go into the future, that is a stereotype that dissipates and goes away, because it is not fair to take a paintbrush and broad stroke against communities or different types of females and making, inaccurate statements like that. Also, I mentioned it earlier, any agent that's going to be showing a property needs to be educated on that property. And do you need to know everything? No, but there are basic real estate knowledge things that need to be stated. And when asked a question around how many acres or simple things around, do you have access to XYZ? An agent should know this, and especially when it's being filmed on Netflix.
Just to be fair, though, this was just a problem with one agent. Yeah, they weren't all incompetent.
But having that correct, but that one agent, and then being led on to continue to have a role in the agency, in the brokerage, for as long as she did thereafter, her failures to really show up and be confident, to me didn't make a lot of sense. But again, it is what it is. And then, you mentioned it earlier, the bickering and the lack of respect and sisterhood. Again, typical stereotypical content we see when portraying groups of Black women together on television, it seems like. So I was, a little disappointed by seeing that, because it would have been nicer to maybe, because I'm sure there were bonding moments and there were more beautiful sisterhood moments that could have been portrayed, right? So I don't know if it was the production. I don't know if that's just how they operate together. It's questionable. So if the show gets another season, it would be interesting to see how the vibes are between the women, especially since Sherelle has had a baby now. So that's a beautiful blessing that, congratulations to her and her family. So, we shall see, I guess. Ultimately, it comes down to the next question, which is, would you recommend watching the show?
Well, before I get to a recommendation, I would say, what you got to think about is, if you want to see more about this agent that wasn't really good, you can find out what happened to her if you watch the show. But if you don't really care about what happens with that, then I could say it's a hard pass, because I don't think you could gain that much from watching the show, to be honest. I mean, there's some entertaining stuff, but I don't know. I don't think it has enough. It's not captivating enough, to be honest. It doesn't hold its own. So it's
like 2 thumbs down for you.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend watching it. I don't think there's that much value in it, to be honest, because of the cons.
That hurts, because it's like one of the few shows that show us kind of having so much power, and it's just like.
But I think it's in a light where it's not really good, so it just adds to stereotypes is the problem.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, I would say if you're a fan of real estate, pass. You're going to hate the show. And if you're a fan of drama, then come on through.
Here we go, yo. So what's the scenario? It's scenario time, guys. Scenario 1. Adisha's number 1 real estate agent, Shermel, wants to run the office, while Adisha is on vacation. Adisha decides to leave her best friend, Jershika, in charge instead. Should Shermel be angry at Adisha?
What? What is your question?
Okay, you don't see it?
I'm too confused by what's going on here. So there's an agent who wants to run the office when someone else is on vacation.
Yeah.
And then that agent decides to leave her best friend in charge instead of actually doing the job. Should the person who thinks the other person is doing it be angry? Yes, if that person wasn't aware that the agent was going to do that, right? Because if you leave someone in charge to do something, it's because you feel confident with what that person is doing. And if they decide to delegate such tasks, then you need to inform the person just in case that they don't feel comfortable with that decision. Because what if you delegate it to someone who, is going to take your information and do something fraudulent with it, or is going to do a poor job, or is not going to do the job at all? Like, it shouldn't be upon you to do that. Like, I think you have to get pre-approval to do that.
So the question is, should the number 1 agent be mad at the owner of the business because the owner left her best friend in charge?
I mean, I think the owner doesn't have a duty to tell their workers, but again, if you operate from a place of we, then it's a better type of leadership to be able to inform your team when you are making decisions like that, so that they don't feel like, wait, like, who's this other person? So I would say you should inform. You don't have to, it's your business, but if you do, it makes everyone feel like they've bought into this what's happening, as opposed to just finding out later.
And the people that are at the top and the best of the employees, should they be mad at the owner, or should they just go with the flow and say the owner makes the best choice?
If they're informed, they shouldn't be mad. But if they're not informed, I understand that they could be mad. Right?
So don't be mad. As long as you were told, then that's okay.
Well, yeah, because you don't want to be blindsided, right? So if you're informed, like, hey, I'm going to be going away and X person is running the show.
Yeah.
Then fine. But if they just go off and then this other person is just like, hey, I'm running the show, that's not fair. Because they weren't aware of what's going on. And then they feel like they don't know, like it's a change that wasn't anticipated. So then that causes issue.
All right. So for me, I say that Shermel should be angry at Adisha, regardless of how she was informed, because she's the number 1 real estate agent at that office. So I don't know. You should throw them a bone once in a while. So when things like this come up, just see if they'd want to even take the role on, like get their feel on it. Be like, hey, would you like to run the office while I'm running out? Just get, like, Adisha could have asked about that. She could have just give her the shot, because I don't know, people start to feel a certain way if there's no kind of movement for them. And it would just be good to show that to your agents that, hey, I see the work you do and I reward good work. So,
gotcha.
So I'd understand if she'd be angry at the boss. Scenario 2. Travona created a promotional flyer featuring all the people at her real estate office, but left out Dershira because she wanted to use the best picture. Should Dershira confront Travona about leaving her out of the flyer?
Could you make no sense ever? Like, sir, if you watch the show, everyone, you will understand why these scenarios are the way that they are, excluding the madness that is. The madness?
What madness? I don't understand any madness.
Understand.
I would love to hear the madness, because I wonder what's confusing you in these scenarios. Yeah. That's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering what the most confusing part is. That's all I wonder.
It's the native English.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. The person left out of the flyer should be upset because ultimately, it's not about just the best pictorial depiction of a team. It's about showing the team itself. And when you exclude someone, it makes them feel like, why am I here? What am I doing? And it's not appropriate for team camaraderie, nor is it appropriate for building up people's spirits and feeling like their work and who they work for matters just as much to them. So yes, be mad.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the question was about, you could be mad, but it was also about just confronting the person at least.
And you should absolutely confront.
So, I think that, I understand you would be mad in this situation and definitely needs to confront Travona about this because that's kind of crazy, right? You should let people know who's actually in the office. That's nice to know. You could actually see less people on the flyer, maybe be like, oh man, these people are tapped out. They don't have enough agents to actually sell my piece of property. So I think it's a bad oversight to leave somebody out. You gotta put everybody in the picture. And if you're the one left out, don't be afraid to confront the boss.
Exactly.
Scenario 3. Kunmi became a real estate agent over a year ago and got a position at an agency in Tampa. Unfortunately, she never closed one deal. Do you think it's time for Kunmi to find a new occupation?
That's a great question. Like, how long is too long to keep moving on with a goal? I guess you would have to know more about whether Kumi has been putting the amount of effort and the diligence needed to be successful in real estate, and also has Kumi been working on the craft of real estate. It's really a craft. Selling real estate isn't an easy task, like anything else in life, and you really have to be able to work your network, be diligent, leverage social media, leverage your network. There's a lot that goes into being successful in real estate. So it's not enough to know if Kumi should just stop outrightly just because a year has passed and Kumi hasn't been able to close a deal. What else has Kumi been doing to really justify whether the next step is to close this door and to move on, or to keep pushing through?
All right. So for me, I think of a real estate agent, if they can't close a deal within a year, I think maybe they should do something else. That's just what I see. I think that, the writing's on the wall. This is not for you.
Okay.
To me, I don't know why you're trying to do this now. It just seems weird.
What if they sold on the 13th month, though? Like,
I know, but what happened over a year? Like, it takes that long. I don't think it's actually a good occupation.
But
maybe it could be a hobby, maybe. If you relegate it down to a hobby and you get another job, then you can do it. But if this was your only job and you taking over a year to close deals, I think it's time to get another job. That's what I feel.
All right. Well, maybe KJ agrees. We'll have to see. We ultimately are at that time again. It's the end of our 229th episode of
WokeNFree.
Quite the episode, doing a WokeNFree review of the Netflix show Selling Tampa. So now, Khalil, what do folks have to do?
Come back next week for the new WokeNFree Wednesday episode. And make sure you follow us on social media to follow along in the conversation. And make sure you tune in next week for WokeNFree Wednesday to join the conversation at WokeNFree.com.
If you'd like to be a guest on the show or share how the show makes you feel, hit us up on our Contact Us page at WokeNFree.com. That's WokeNFree.com. I mentioned it before. You'll find us on social, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, and LinkedIn at WokeNFree. And sponsorships and collaborations, again, hit us up on our Contact Us page at WokeNFree.com.
If you didn't already subscribe, please do share the episode and make sure you come back to join the conversation every Wednesday for WokeNFree Wednesdays. Remember, WokeNFree is more than a podcast. It is a way of life. Until next time.